If you're new here, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer, host of the Get Legit Law and Shit podcast and legal commentator. I've been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but I'm not your attorney, not legal advice. I am a big fan of the cursey words, so headphones are recommended. This is where the law nerds unite to break down the news stories that you want to hear about with facts, not fuckery. What's up, awesome law nerds? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Coffee and Cursey Words. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me and see me and all the things are good, which it looks like they are. It was a late one, guys. You can see the panda eyes. It was a late night streaming with Nick over on his channel until 2 a.m. I was not anticipating a 3-hour live stream. We had a lot of fun just being law nerds. So over with Ricada Law, just being law nerds, just talking law nerdy shit. Today, we are going to be talking about Erika Girardi, Jayne, Tom Girardi, the lawsuit, the divorce a little bit, and then we're just going to jump into the Jeffree Star stuff. Everyone who's catching this on the replay, I've been going back and timestamping these the best I can, so I will absolutely timestamp it for you. I had a lot of fun last night, but also I don't stay up late. So for your girl who doesn't stay up late, I'm like, woof. We are old and we are tired, but that's okay. So Erika Girardi, Tom Girardi, which is also the podcast episode tomorrow. So I'm not going to go into a full deep dive on it. There's some things I want to point out that I haven't seen talked about in the news. And then I feel like there's going to be a lot of questions about the Jeffree Star stuff. So we should really just jump into that. When we get into the Jeffree Star stuff, we are going to be talking about adult natured content. I will do my best to make it less dramatic. I mean, less salacious, less triggering for some, and just to talk about it in the plainest way that we can. But tomorrow's episode of the podcast is about Erika, Jayne, and Tom Girardi, and we're going to do that first. So tomorrow will be live. Well, hopefully. Last week we had major uploading problems, but it should be live for premiere with the live chat with me in the live chat at 11 a.m., which means it's a pre-recorded video. It's an episode of the Get Legit Law and Shit podcast, and then it will be live, and it goes up for the channel members, the awesome law nerds first. So if you guys want early access and you can't make it, you are welcome to join the Law Nerd Squad, and that is there for you. If that doesn't work for you, it will still go live at 11 a.m. with the live chat for you. And you will always get a reminder about that at Text Emily. Occasionally I forget. It is me texting. It's a me texting you. It's not a group text. It's not a Discord, but it's me texting you. So we're going to definitely have updates there. And I get in and chat when I can in there, just like I do all over social. But tomorrow's episode of Get Legit Law and Shit. For those of you who are like, who is Erika Girardi? Erika Girardi is Erika Jayne. She is a performer. She was on Dancing with the Stars. She has club hit music. She refers to herself as a showgirl, and she definitely has the hair and the makeup and all the things. She has a song, It's Expensive to Be Me. I think I could probably get about 7 seconds of that in before it would get copyright striked. So we're not going to do that. But let me pull up the screen so you can see who we're talking about. And then I'll tell you why it matters to any of our lives. Ooh, let me change the background real quick. I love this background, but sometimes it's hard when we have, sometimes the black is just, we're going to go with that today because it's calming and you can see what we're talking about. So, he responds to the divorce filing. That's interesting. This has happened, in the last 2 hours, of course. So the divorce is going to be very interesting, and the divorce plays into the lawsuit that they have going on. This is Erika Jayne, Erika Girardi. This is her husband, Tom Girardi. He is 81. She is 49. She's a real housewife of Beverly Hills as well. And let me take this off the screen. I find all the video ads super distracting. He is also a very prominent attorney. And when I say very prominent attorney, do y'all remember the movie Aaron Brockovich? He was the attorney that did that case. So he is a very well-known, like Hall of Fame toxic tort attorney. He was and has had very large settlements. He has the Vioxx settlement, which is a pharmaceutical, was a $4.85 billion settlement with Vioxx, a $1.9 billion gas case, another $1.7 billion gas case. So he had quite a lot of very, very large cases. So in the world of the toxic tort, like award-winning litigators, he is kind of at the top of that heap because he has had some of these major cases. But then there's this federal lawsuit. And the federal lawsuit is from a law firm that worked with his firm, Girardi Keese, in the settlement of victims from a Boeing flight crash. So there was a Boeing, when there were two back-to-back, very close in time Boeing flight crashes with regard to a particular model of the Boeing airplane. They were dealing with one of the crashes with the surviving children, family members, and what have you. So it was a kind of survivor's lawsuit to settle with Boeing for the crash. The law firm in Illinois is saying, hey, you need to pay the victims though, because you need to pay the victims though. And there was a lot that went round and round on, have the victims been paid? Have the victims not been paid? The lawsuit is essentially saying, we don't believe the victims have been paid. We've never gotten an accounting to show the victims have been paid. We haven't been paid our legal fees. And then they're alleging not just that, but alleging that not only have the victims not been paid, but that the victims haven't been paid and the money was embezzled to maintain this grandiose, larger than life lifestyle, this Real Housewives lifestyle. So when we talk about that, we're gonna just do it. I'm gonna do a few seconds of this song because the song comes up in the comes up in the suit. So, which is funny to me. I'm going to show you guys some of the footnotes because in the podcast episode, I don't pull up the documents. So I'm going to show you some of the documents in that. Let me just turn up the volume on my computer so you can hear through my mic. But this is Erika Jayne. She has this song, by the way. All shit with this lawsuit aside, this song's funny and I enjoy the How Many Fucks Do I Give? It's a vibe. We're going to get to the chorus. Yeah. How many fucks do I give? How many fucks do I give? None. So that's the vibe that you're getting. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. And then we get this other song, Expensive, that is part of, we're just going to make this bigger, that is part of this lawsuit. And I'm going to try to just get to the chorus because the chorus is quoted. Nope. I don't know this song well enough. Yeah, your kitty's like a python. We know, Erika Jayne. We got it. We pat the puss. We've learned. I watch a lot of Real Housewives, you guys. I have no shade. I like Real Housewives. I enjoy Erika Jayne's music. I fucking hate this lawsuit. It hurts my heart, and I'll tell you why in just a sec. Yeah. It's expensive to be made. Just wait for Looking This Good, Don't Come for Free. So this is going to become evidence in a federal lawsuit. So when we talked about federal judges having to talk about Trisha Paytas, we're now going to have another judge having to talk about It's Expensive to Be Me and trying to figure out who Erika Jayne is, why she's married to this famous attorney, and what the fuck is happening in this lawsuit anyway. So the suit alleges, and they didn't put the music video in, by the way. The link in the lawsuit I take issue with. The link in the lawsuit's to like a live performance and like watch what happens live. And I'm like, right, but if you're trying to say she spends all this crazy money and that they're embezzling to support this lavish lifestyle, why not use the produced music video that has like 33 million views? Like, why are you not linking to the actual music? Look, lawyers, you need to talk to your law clerks who watch this shit and say, hey, what's the best version of Expensive to Be Me instead of like the live version from the clubhouse? I digress on what should be used as evidence in this case. But in this case, I'm going to take that off. We're going to wait. No, I want the smaller one. Just stop it, banners. Stop it. Okay. No, we're going to leave this one. No, we're going to leave this one. This is what happens when I'm tired. My brain overloads and I can't make decisions. So with this, the YouTube videos become relevant because they're her. They're like her making statements about herself. And her making statements about herself in a way that directly goes to this extravagant lifestyle that's being alleged. I appreciate that federal court timestamps every single page, and then it's page 3 of 30. There are allegations in here that I didn't see in all the Insider and E-News and all of those reports, so I'm just going to point those out to you. They are using Pink Flamingo, they are going to use the song stating that she is talking about her lifestyle and saying, looking this good don't come for free. There's a couple news articles, and I remember this from just watching The Real Housewives. There's a few news articles where she talks about the fact that it costs in the $40,000 a month range to keep kind of the Erika Jayne thing going with costumes and glam and all the stuff. So she's talked about expensive and how expensive it is to do all of that. She's talked about how expensive it is to actually be on The Real Housewives. She flies on private jets. Like, she makes no bullshit about being a fucking rich bitch. Like, she makes no apologies for how rich they are and for how much her husband makes being this famous lawyer, right? So this was an easy to read. This is an easy to read complaint. We go through the nature of the action, which really breaks down very clearly that essentially the celebrity glitz and glam life is the problem here. Tom is a well-known and powerful personal injury attorney. Erika's a performer who is perhaps better known for her years-long presence on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, centered on their larger-than-life extravagances. And these are all things that have been reported, right? The allegation here is that the divorce is being used to shield assets. So we're going to get into like the lawyer shade, and we're going to get into like the pop culture tea part of this, and then we're going to move on to Jeffree Star. Because what I thought was very interesting is that the lawsuit alleges that Tom's law firm has paid Erika $20 million in loans. Like, the firm is, and not that you can't do that. Like, a business can loan money to another business, but if the monies are supposed to be from settlements from clients, you can't do that. So just a real quick statement on settlement accounts. You, as an attorney, if you're dealing with money and settlements and money that needs to go to clients, and even dealing with retainers that are worked towards being paid, you put it in a trust account, and the trust account is a separate account at the bank. It's not your operating account. Like, you don't commingle your money. Like, your money doesn't get to play together. You have your business money, and then you have money that's just for your clients. And I think any lawyers in the chat will say, look, anyone who is an attorney knows from the day you like cover practice of law going forward, do not fuck with client funds. It is the fast track to getting disbarred. Messing with client funds there's literally no excuse. And these allegations When I say they hurt my heart, they actually hurt my heart. One, I respect my profession. I don't respect all lawyers, but I respect my profession as a whole. And shit like this makes it really hard because you're dealing with toxic tort victims, people who have dealt with so much to find an attorney that they trust to win a judgment for them or to get a settlement for them. And so now you're talking about, in this case, plane crash survivors. They've found an attorney and he's this big deal attorney. And then they've gotten settlements and then the money's not there. And then there's this lawsuit saying, well, he's got a $5,000 toilet and his wife spends $40,000 a month on her glam and her look and her costuming. And there's these loans, but where's our money? We trusted you. And that breach of client trust is the thing that pisses me off the most. Like, lawyers being shitty to one another doesn't, it is what it is. But that breach of client trust hurts my heart because when people look to trust a lawyer, they do the best they can to find someone to represent them, to find someone to represent their interests, and to find someone to speak for them after they've been harmed. And when you violate that trust, it's fucked. Like, you put the money in a client trust account and then that money goes to the client. So in this case, they are asking for an accounting, which I would like to see. People are pointing out every lawyer they've seen, it's been about the money. It's the number one thing. Like, lawyers can do a lot of fucked things. And I've seen lawyers do some fucked things and get called on it and be like, yeah, shouldn't have done that. But fucking with client funds is the fast track to getting yourself disbarred. I was shocked by some of the things in this just because look, I don't practice in toxic tort. I don't practice in mass tort, but I'm aware of the types of settlements. You have an attorney that's gotten hold on, let me pull the exact number. The Vioxx settlement was a $4.85 billion settlement. And even on fees, attorneys normally take 30% of that. So why is the plane crash money not there? Like, why is the plane crash money not there? I saw the comments that the $5,000 toilet better include a happy ending. I don't know what the $5,000 toilet does, but we're gonna put that in. We're gonna get to that part. We're gonna get to that because it's like the law stuff that hurts my heart plus the tea, and we're gonna make it all work together. But the law stuff for me is gross. And normally on a complaint like this, I would be like, look, this is one side, which I always say anyway, this is one side, and we're going to hear more. But this suit points to other similar lawsuits and a few news articles that indicate that this is not the first time he's been sued for these allegations. So now when you get more allegations, I'm like, fuck, man, really? I don't want it to be true, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. We will see the other side to this, but also the divorce was filed by Erika a month before this came down. And there's been news reports that she was selling the private jet and moving stuff around. And so there's now this appearance of perhaps shielding assets, or at least shielding her. He's 81. It looks like the firm is being dissolved. There could be a substantial amount of lawsuits. And at the end of the day, he's like, sell the house. What are you going to get? So there are reasons for her to get divorced. But if the divorce is to protect assets here for him, that's not going to be looked on favorably by a court either. If the divorce is really like, this ship is sinking, I'm out. I mean, though it's distasteful, it's not necessarily shielding assets. It's I'm getting off the Titanic. I see the iceberg. I'm the fuck out. I'll never let go, Jack. Oh, oops. There's enough room for both of us here. But I have to let go. I'm sorry that you're in the water. Goodbye. I'm going to create my new life. I'm going to be just fine. Ta. It'll be interesting to see if she reappears on Housewives after this. Cause do you guys, those Housewives fan, when Lisa Rinna's like, don't talk about the husbands. I can't imagine trying to film a TV show with this going on in the background. Let's get back to all of this stuff. They attached voicemails in here. Should we play one of the voicemails? We should. We should absolutely play one of the voicemails. Because what I'll probably do is clip the Jeffree Star part separately and then re-upload it so that we can have this stuff in here as a live and just not worry about monetizing this. We're coming, Jeffree. We're coming. Hold on. Let's pull this up that has the links so I can play the voicemails for you guys. There are voicemails attached in here as evidence. And I thought that was really interesting. I have not seen that a lot, but it's fascinating. I also didn't play it in the podcast. So when you guys are here for the live, like this is all the stuff that's coming up. We might talk about it tomorrow in the live, but anyway. Yeah, I noticed that Renna doesn't go after Erika. It's because Erika is a bad bitch. Like Erika's a bad bitch. Like her or not, she has bad bitch vibes. So I need to pull up the other one because I don't want to lose the screen I'm in. Too many tabs open. My brain always. Angela, this is a good question. If for some reason it's determined they're not moving assets around before the divorce, if they get together again after the divorce, can something be done then? It would be very, very difficult to. It would be very difficult to. This could be her fleeing a sinking ship. This could then be them moving assets. We're gonna see that play out. It's so gross if they're getting divorced to shield assets from plane crash victims. It's easier for me to say, you know what, Tom is like, this is going to explode. Just it's got to be done, and I just don't know. I think they can use housewives footage in court here in New Jersey. They did with the Giudice cases. And yes, they can because it's her own statements. And that's where her own statements on film, though she can argue that things are taken out of context, but it's her own statements. So her own statements can come up, which is where in the other cases we've been talking about, other YouTube statements don't necessarily come up, but this one absolutely can. So her statements definitely come in. Okay. Are they able to delay the divorce until the case is over? They're able to choose what they want to do. The court might ask them to, but divorces in California can take about a year anyway. So let's pull up the lawsuit that has the live links instead of the one that I highlighted. And then I'll go back to the one I highlighted and talk about a few of the other things in here, because I also pulled up the divorce case and it looks like he responded today to the divorce, which means I might need to update the podcast, but it sounds like he's opposing spousal support, which is very interesting. And I would be interested to see why. So there are now more filings in this case. Let's go to the footnotes. Come here. I love a good foot. You guys know that I love a good footnote. So in the weeks following this letter, and after attempts by Edelson, that's the firm that's suing, saying the clients need to be paid, there were multiple phone calls, and then they're stating that Girardi, Tom, husband to Erika Jayne, called to plead his case and presumably ward off this complaint, saying he is trying to say, please don't sue me. The first voicemail states, we're doing good on this thing, getting things squared away and shit. Don't be mean to me. Be nice to me. I'm doing good. Now, the background of this is he had been in the hospital. He had been out of communication with the other law firm because he had been ill and going through treatments of some nature. It was because of me that we got this, by the way. So I take that as I'm the one that's suing. I'll be in touch. Don't worry about everything. We're friends. Things are going to work out. Good. So let's just fair use this and talk about the tape.
Well, I think Tom Girardi, we're doing good on this thing, getting things squared away and shit. Don't be mean to me. Be nice to me.
I'm dying to know what you guys think of don't be mean to me, be nice to me. And then he goes in, but remember, I'm the one who got you this anyway.
I'm doing good. It was because of me that we got this, by the way. Anyway, I'm doing some hospital testing.
And then it goes into him talking about what he's got going on and coming up. And the second one is him trying to explain what happened.
Hey, Tom Girardi. We screwed up here a little bit. We had 3 different air crashes and they got a little screwed up. I'll have everything worked out by Thursday. I'm so sorry. It's never happened before. But anyway, everything will be smoked over on Thursday.
So he's just saying, we messed up. He talks about them having 3 different air crashes going on, and it doesn't, lawyer perspective, okay, so you have 3 different crash settlements, but they go into different settlement accounts. Like the money from Boeing for these victims should have gone into their client equity account, client escrow account. And then the other ones should have gone into theirs. There's no reason these funds should have been confused or commingled. So they are absolutely saying there needs to be an accounting. We need to figure out where these funds went. And I'm going to go back to my highlighted one because there's a few loans in here that are quite a lot of money. And this is where we get to this firm saying, look, they're funding a lavish lifestyle on this. There's a that escalated quickly note. And here's why I said that escalated quickly. This law firm, according to this lawsuit, is winding up. So Girardi Keese, Tom's law firm, is being taken over into receivership by another law firm. This is talking about during a call. During a call, defendant Griffin, another attorney, informed them that they should get in touch with defendant Finnerty, yet another attorney, who would be serving as a receiver charged with overseeing the windup of defendant Girardi Keese. So the winding up of this law firm. Okay. So now it looks like this law firm is literally closing its doors and being taken into this defendant Finnerty's law firm. There are multiple creditors being represented, and that the new firm, Finnerty's firm, is acting as a receiver and taking over Girardi Keese for the purpose of litigating its assets, including litigating to settlement or judgment as necessary ongoing cases. So now the cases are being placed with another firm. So to me, this reads as steps before you would file a bankruptcy, or in anticipation of that, or in acknowledgement that you can no longer practice in this way. So it looks like Girardi Keese is closing its doors if the things alleged in this lawsuit are true, and Girardi Keese is in receivership under another law firm. So now all the cases are going to be dealt with and all the mess is going to be dealt with by this other law firm, which is very, very interesting. There are a lot of creditors here, but let's talk about the opulent and expensive lifestyle. By all accounts, Girardi keeps engaging in fraud and deceit in order to support a never-ending spending spree by himself and Jayne. Girardi and Jayne lead notoriously lavish lives. Erika reportedly spends $40,000 per month on her look. Erika even performs a song called Expensive. They did spell it properly. Kudos to the attorneys. Featuring its hook, It's Expensive to Be Me, footnote 9. Oh, yes. Articles about Erika Jayne's lifestyle. Articles about the most expensive things she owns, and then the music video, but it's not a music video. Tom has a daily standing reservation and exclusive table at Morton's Steakhouse in LA. I mean, probably not at the moment because COVID, but Morton's, it's delicious. Routinely flies on private jets, owns multiple homes across the country, and maintains a significant monthly tab. When asked why she and Tom require 2 private jets, Erika responded, because one is small and one is big. She also bragged that the most expensive thing she owns is a single piece of jewelry, but would not say how much it's worth. And they said, which would presumably mean it's more expensive than her $250,000 Lamborghini, with a footnote to the Lamborghini. And she bought Tom a $5,000 toilet as a gift. And then there are footnotes with all of those things being talked about on different reality.com. The footnotes in this are on point because it actually goes to statements that she said, which is appreciated. So we love a good footnote. The thing is, there is a sworn declaration regarding another lawsuit. And that is where we get the statement that Girardi has been using Girardi Keith's funds to loan over $20 million to his wife's company, EJ Global. This is why she's also a defendant here, because the allegation is that these funds, this $20 million that was loaned to his wife's company, is potentially part of monies that should have gone to victims of this case or potentially other cases, but here alleged to this case. Now that Tom and Erika are facing increasing pressure to actually pay down their debts, as well as Tom living up to his fiduciary duty by transferring settlement funds to his clients who are otherwise prepared to sue him, they are searching for new methods to protect their money. And that is where the statement comes in that they believe Tom and Erika's divorce is a sham proceeding designed to further the scheme described above of placing assets outside of Tom and his law firm to shield them from collection of creditors, so that they're hiding money here. The questions I see the questions about jail time. This is all civil stuff. So right now, this is all civil suits. So for now, this is all civil stuff that we're facing. You guys, 2020 is like legal meets pop culture exploded. It's just so much. But this BravoTV.com article about what's the most expensive thing that Erika Girardi owns, and she won't say. And she says it's a piece of jewelry. I don't even think we get this is the car. I don't think we even get the car was on Dancing with the Stars, you guys. I forgot that the $250,000 car was also on Dancing with the Stars. The car's famous, but we don't have a picture of the jewelry. I was hoping we'd get a picture of the jewelry. We don't. Sad. Sad face, Emily. Sad face. So the thing that hit me was this 2017 article that noted Girardi Keith's, the law firm, has been sued for malpractice, fraud, or breach of contract 22 times since 1995. 22 times. 20, they've been sued, according to this article, 22 times. I just, Joni, I thought it might be the Cartier Jaguar ring too. That was the first thing I thought, but I don't know. There's a lot, but some of the stuff she wears on Beverly Hills, I think I don't know. I know a lot of housewives will borrow stuff to show it on the show, like they do at the Oscars and stuff. So I don't know. But this talks about the outstanding debts, and there are substantial outstanding debts here. There's a $16 million loan that was outstanding. There's a $5 million loan. There's a $16 million loan that was apparently paid. The allegations here are that it was paid with client funds so that they need to get that money back and give it back to the clients. Y'all. There's a lot here. So I'm doing this episode as a two-part because I'm going to pull the other lawsuits and see what I can find in some of those other lawsuits. I don't know how, being sued 22 times doesn't mean it happened, which is why I want to look into some of these underlying suits, because I can't imagine that if he was sued 22 times and it was found that he was embezzling funds or defrauding clients that many times in that few years, that there wouldn't be bar actions. So you know what? I didn't even pull him up on the bar. Let me look. Let me see if there's any disciplinary actions. At least we can get a look into there. I didn't even pull it up yesterday. Spell Girardi properly. Which I can. This doesn't show any disciplinary actions on the state bar. So there's something, the underlying lawsuits, there's his sections, but there you would see stuff in here if there's stuff, which means if there was stuff, it was investigated and cleared. So I'm very interested to see what happens with this. because just because there's a lot of lawsuits doesn't mean they didn't resolve. Because as we are going to talk about in Jeffree Star, lawsuits can be resolved out of court. You guys, this one, again, if these things are true, it is a very, very big fucking deal. I think an accounting will hopefully clear this up, because if it's shown where the money went, then it's shown where the money went. I want to see the response in this, and I want to look into the underlying and other referenced lawsuits, because just somebody has just because there are lawsuits filed doesn't mean that the allegations are true. And just because, but 22 lawsuits is a lot. So somewhere there is something, and I'm very, very interested to see that, what is in those underlying lawsuits, why this is coming up. It's again, it's one of those things that there's a lot here that's like, why is this happening? But also I can see the other side where Tom can say, look, the accountings did get messed up. I was in and out of the hospital, and this all went down in 2020. So we're talking in a time frame from February to now, which in law is not a super long time. So I can see an argument that, look, yeah, things got messed up, but the money still got to the victims. So I'm going to be very interested to see the response. If these things are true, it's really, really bad. Though that said, these things could not be true. That is also possible. There's allegations that there's 22 other times that this attorney has been sued, but there also aren't any state bar disciplinary actions that we can see. So you guys, it's just, I know that lawyers can suck. I do. But stealing from toxic tort victims, as is alleged here, is so dark. It's just so dark. So I hope this sorts out. If if this isn't true, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because that's not going to go well. But if the other firm doesn't say, other than this is the reason, like the T is in it's to support the extravagant lifestyle, but there's nothing in there that's not like, there were emails about this, there were voicemails about this, we didn't get the accountings, and we still don't have the accountings. And some of those things are not salacious. It's like, where are the accountings? And that's a really real question. Where are the accountings? And hopefully we will get accountings and see where the money is. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want, is where the money is. So I'm going to pop into the chat and try to answer some questions, and then hop on to Jeffree Star. That sounds hard. We're not hopping on to Jeffree Star. We're moving on to a different topic. I was up late. Ooh. Can I check the other partner? There are no other partners right now for Girardi Keese. He is the only equity partner, but yes, let me check real quick and see. Because the state bar is a public website. Let me see. Let me make sure I have the right, before we state bar check people, let me make sure I have the right name. But Girardi Keese is just held by Tom Girardi at that point. So Keese is not there anymore. The name stands. So at Girardi Keese, they no longer have Keese. So figuring out who Keese is. Let's see if there's only one. Or multiple Keeses. Oh, of course there are. Oh, there's only 7. But I don't want to pull up the wrong Keese. So Girardi Keese. I'm trying to find, and not easily finding the first name of the other partner. So I am not going to, I don't know exactly what the other partner's full name was. So we will find that another day. Another day. But at the end of the day, a lot of this is being alleged with regards to Tom. So, and there are a couple cases that are deceased. There are cases that are just inactive. We'll pull up Keese another day. What up, Rich Lux? Good to see you. You're just in time. We're going to talk about Jeffree Star. In defense to YouTube toilet community, the most expensive toilet is $8,775 and is bipolar. Is this your toilet, Rich Lux? Are you sharing with us the things that you own in your home? So the 5,000 toilet isn't the bougiest of the toilets. Okay. Okay. It's just, whew. You guys, this stuff is, the allegations here are very big. I don't know if it's Robert Keese. We will check. We will check another day. Guess what? You know why? Because tomorrow after the podcast episode drops, I go live and we'll make a note. I will do it before tomorrow's after party and I will answer the questions because I do want to move on and I am exhausted because I live stream way too late. I don't have a pen on my desk. Way to go, Emily. I've been using my iPad so much that I literally don't have a pen sitting on my desk. But that's okay. Because I have a fuck ton of them and they're rainbow colored and organized. Okay, look up Keese partner. My desk is a mess. I was helping my kid with a homework assignment last night. So there's like paper and printer and like all the things. She cheaped out on her husband's gifts, explains the divorce. Well, yeah, if she's rolling around in a $250,000 car and he got a $5,000 toilet. Oh, you guys. I'm going to try to hit a couple of the questions before we move on to all the shit that's happening with Jeffree Star, just to give everyone a chance. If you don't want to have this conversation, you are welcome. You are welcome to not. If I had random cash to throw around, I would absolutely get a Japanese toilet. They're the bomb. And I think that something you use a lot every day, especially lockdown, like we're home all the time. I work from home. We don't go out. It's lockdown. I think now is the time. What are the odds that an investigation into paying off the bar is? I assume that there are bar board members. Oh, that would be a very crazy thing. I don't even want to speculate on that because if those lawsuits, like anyone can sue anyone for anything, it doesn't mean it's true. At the end of the day, it needs to go through court process. The thing is, though, people can be paid, cases can't go away, but bar complaints can also come without a lawsuit. So you can complain to the bar without necessarily suing someone, but not seeing anything on the bar website plus seeing two is something I want to look into more. I really do want to see some of those underlying lawsuits and see what happens. Guys. All right, I'm going to just try to. Erika knew what was going on. She can't pretend she had her head buried in the sand at this point in the game. I mean, I can see both arguments. I can see the argument of, well, he's this big fancy lawyer and he won. I mean, when you look at it on the news reporting, he won a $4.85 billion lawsuit, a $1.9 billion settlement, a $1.7 billion settlement. Like these are massive settlements. So her argument of like, well, money is just coming in. She might say, look, I just thought money was just coming in. And so I didn't know, like he had a $4.85 billion suit. I just figured we were set forever. So there might be an argument there. I don't know. Can I go over your color coding for pens days of the week quickly? I will do a whole organizational video for sure. I absolutely will. Today, we need to jump into the Jeffree Star stuff. And we're already 45 minutes in. And I'm like, if we don't jump into the Jeffree Star stuff, it's just going to be a thing. Yes, the earrings are Kendra Scott earrings because round earrings make my face look too round. So I love the teardroppy ones. I have a couple different colors, but when I've got black ones and like teal ones, but they don't show up the same way on camera. So I rock the rose gold ones. They match my Apple Watch and my Aura ring. So we keep it simple. Like this is basically the jewelry. And then if I'm not wearing these, I have studs that I wear. I don't. I don't. Does spousal privilege apply to something like this, or is that only criminal? Spousal privilege can apply, but they're in the middle of a divorce, which is also very interesting. So spousal privilege can protect, like, what did you tell your wife about this? What did you tell her about the money owed? But if they get divorced, it becomes a different thing. And how would it roll back? I think that things during the time of the marriage would still be covered. It would stuff be going forward, though I could be wrong on that. But it's been a while since I've looked at spousal privilege because not super relevant to my life. But it would protect, I believe it would protect the things during the time of marriage anyway. And the thing about spousal privilege, it's just, even if she wants to talk, it can still be protected. So we'll see. We'll see. It's this lawsuit brings up like a really dark side of law, and the dark side being that if you're embezzling from survivors, it's dark. And it really, really does make me sad. And I hope, part of me is like, I really just hope this isn't true and that there's an accounting. But the other firm is like, look, we still don't have an accounting. And in my mind, I'm like, why don't we have an accounting? And why did it get to the point where that couldn't be resolved? And one of the attorneys that was working on this left the firm during this, and it looks like the firm is now being wrapped up into another firm. So there's a divorce and the winding down of the firm and these allegations, and all of those things coming at the same time is like, oof, oof, oof. Erika and Tom working together to save assets via divorce. That's the allegation. That's absolutely the allegation here. So it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be fleeing a sinking ship or it's going to be hiding assets. I don't know. Because when you watch them on Housewives, they seem to have, though there is a large age difference, they seem to have a companionship there that they both enjoy. Yeah, Lillian Pink says stealing from plane crash victims to fund your own private jets. And that's why this is so, so dark. Common Can Mom 2018, Scorpion Mom 2018 asked, if the money is with her, can it be taken back? That's one of the things that they're asking for. They're asking to kind of claw back that money and say, if this money has been placed with these people, these other defendants, it needs to be, the legal word for that is disengorged from them. It needs to be taken back because they got improper funds. What happens if he dies during the process of this case? Then his estate would still be in this litigation. So it wouldn't, I hate to say like somebody passing doesn't matter, but for the purpose of a litigation like this, it would just fall into the estate and the estate would have to continue winding it up. It looks like his law firm is already going into receivership, so he wouldn't have to worry about that. Reality vlogger, no, we're getting to Jeffree Star second, just for that purpose. What's up, Adam? This is why we're getting to Jeffree Star second, so that you all wouldn't miss it. But just to finish up this, that is why so many people are being sued in this lawsuit. Edelson PC is asking for an accounting for improperly distributed funds to be disengorged and given to the proper victims. They're asking for themselves to get paid at the end of it, but this lawsuit doesn't read like we didn't get paid. This lawsuit reads like, to me, it reads like, where the fuck did the money go? And are you really taking this money to fund your own lifestyle? Like, if that's what's happening here, that's fucked. That's how this reads to me. Not like we need to get paid. It's more of what the fuck even happened and we have a duty to our clients. That's how this reads to me. Could it be a takedown? I mean, there would still have to be basis for it, and they still don't have an accounting. But these settlements happened in February. They said the money's been paid out, so where's the accounting proving it? I am very interested to see the answer here. But the defendants are Tom Girardi himself, Girardi Keese, the law firm. He is the only equity partner of that firm, so it's him. Erika Girardi, aka Erika Jayne herself. EJ Global, her company. Girardi Financial is their company. David Lira, an attorney. Keith Griffin is another attorney. Johnson Hutchinson Lira is this David Lira's new firm, Robert Finnerty, and then some of these other firms and debtors go to the accounting. So they're not being sued per like, you did shit wrong necessarily. Some of them are being sued for like, you might have some of the money that we need. So you're being sued so we can get to see where some of that money is. So we want everybody's books. We want everybody's books. Are they suing to recover only the amount owed or for further damages? They are suing for the amounts owed. Let's just go to the prayer for relief. They're suing for the amounts owed. They're suing for an accounting. So they're suing to get information as well. I'm just trying to get this all the way to the bottom without making you crazy scrolling. So the prayer for relief on this is a constructive trust with all money transferred from Boeing to GK in connection with the Lion Air settlements. So the court would create a trust. The money from the court would go into the trust, and then the court would say, these are the attorney fees as agreed to. This is the money for the victims as agreed to. So the court takes over distributing that funds, but it looks like a lot of that money is already gone. And then they're saying at the end, if there's enough, then I want to do it. A little bit tired, late night with Big Nose Lawyer. It's habit forming. Be warned. Agarit out. I'm going to pronounce that wrong. I'm also tired. Nick is a lot of fun, and I love the connection he has with his chat. You guys, there's a very fun, different kind of a law nerd relationship over there that is very bantery and fun to be a part of. So they're asking for that trust. They're asking for the disgorgement. That means if any of the other defendants got money that should have gone to the victims, that it needs to go into this fund and be paid out to the survivor clients. They're asking for a full and complete accounting. That accounting for all those different defendants is going to be extensive. Like that's an accounting of all of these different. Louise Lewis, it's a joke with Nick and his group. They absolutely have a very teasing and fun relationship on his channel. And that is one of the jokes that they joke about over on his channel. So there is much love between Nick and his peoples. And that was a running joke last night and is a running joke on his channel between him and his crew. So full accounting. So money goes into a trust so it can go to the remaining victims. And defendants provide a full and complete accounting of all funds. And I pulled this up because I wanted to read it. That there is a charge for breach of contract. So finding that there's a breach of contract and then finding that the other things happened. And at the end of the day, paying the attorney's fees and then costs of litigation. That's not seeking a ton of stuff. That's just seeking, we want an accounting. We want the money to go where it's supposed to go. We want to pay you for the fact that we have to fucking sue you to get this. We want you to pay us for the fact that we have to sue you to get this fucking information that we should have. And then we want all the contracts to be paid and we want to walk away. And then they put in the such other and future relief as the court deems just and equitable, but they're not seeking like, you suck, pay us a ton of money. They're seeking, these people deserve their money. We want to make sure they get their money. If they didn't get their money, what the fuck is happening? That's what that suit is. Tracy, can we talk about the fact that Emily's so badass that there are 4,000 people watching on a weekday at noon? Thank you. I love doing Coffee Chat Live. Coffee Chat Live used to have less friends than our Friday Night Live, but Friday Night Live this week had over 6,400 people on it. We just have lots more law friends, and that's perfectly amazing because law friends. Oh, Jen Girard, good morning. I know it's late. I'm going to tag this so that you can enjoy your marketing meeting for Girard Cosmetics. I'm going to tag this so you can see the Jeffree Star stuff. Sorry that we got to it late, but it'll be here and it'll be tagged somewhere around the 1 hour mark. That seems to be what it is. 1 hour per topic. Okay, guys. We're going to talk about Jeffree Star. Oh, we got to get in the headspace. Okay. We got to talk about Jeffree Star. Here's the thing. What we are talking about is also dark. Today's just a dark day. We're talking about dark shit. This is regarding the alleged payment to a victim of an alleged sexual assault. Why do I say alleged? This has not gone through court. There is not a lawsuit over this that we are aware of. This is allegations and news articles. But there are things that came out on Twitter yesterday that are informative here. And there are these two articles from Insider, and we're going to go through what those articles said. And then we're going to get into it. And then we're going to get into it. You guys, it's a lot. Here's what I am hoping in all of this, that the victim in this case had authorized the release of this. Oh no, we're not even to the end of Nicole case today. Sorry, y'all. We're going to do that another day. That the victim here has knowledge that this was coming out and that is okay with this coming out, because I hate getting into this if the victim doesn't want this gotten into, because that is something that no victim should go through, is having their personal stuff outed. But it seems to me from everything I've gone through that the victim had talked to Insider, and then Jeffree Star made an agreement with the victim to pay the victim to retract their statements, and then those victims' statements were retracted. So to me, it seems that the victim in this case, again, the alleged victim in this case, the person who is sharing their experience, had chosen to share their experience and then had retracted that based on an agreement. Now that agreement is coming to light. So the reason I feel comfortable talking about it, we're going to talk about the NDA. I see you, chat. We're going to talk about it. The reason I feel comfortable talking about this, because again, you guys know I'm a former prosecutor. When it comes to victims, I get very protective, and I don't want to spill somebody's tea that they don't want out there. This is not, but I don't think this was an expose on the victim, because they gave statements and then retracted those statements. It felt like they wanted to talk and then wanted to avoid litigation and wanted to avoid legal issues and then decided not to talk. So with that said, we are going to just talk about it. I don't like any of it. It doesn't mean that some of this is illegal when we get to the paying people and having the settlement agreements. But this is not... We're just going to get into it. It's not good. It's not good. None of this is good. Jeffree Star accusers say the makeup mogul has a history of sexual assault, physical violence, and hush money offers. I'm going to link all of these articles and have already linked some of them in the comments below. So let's just jump into it. There are allegations of physical and sexual assault here. They highlight them in this article that there was a stun gun used, that there was non-consensual sex, that there was potentially substances involved in this, and that then there was a payout from this that caused the victim to retract their statement. We are going to talk about that because there is an NDA, and the NDA is on Twitter, and we're going to go through the NDA. And the NDA, for those of you who are like laws, an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement that is mutually agreed to by both parties. It's like, hey, we're doing this thing, so we have an NDA. It's very common in business. So if you bring somebody on to be a business consultant and you're talking about, hey, we plan to launch this and do this, then we get an NDA together saying, okay, but this is my inside business information, don't share it. So there is an older article from October 1st, 2020 that this stems from. There is new information regarding these allegations. So it is not new allegations, but it is new information, regarding the allegations. So, allegations that there was physical and sexual abuse. Star's team has called these allegations and this article false and defamatory. I was looking for lawsuits regarding Jeffree Star yesterday. I only pulled up the Anna Nicole Smith estate one. I did not see anything else. It doesn't mean that there aren't any coming. It just means that there is nothing filed at this time. They go through the purchant for stirring internet drama. He is called problematic YouTuber Jeffree Star. Um, Truth Sleuth has said NDA get thrown out if they're trying to protect illegal activity or an influencer's way to avoid their behavior getting exposed. Yeah, there can be NDAs from settlement agreements where it's like, I'm going to pay you. Here's the money. You can't talk about what I've paid you for, and that's a contractual agreement to not say shit. Okay. The insider investigation talked to multiple people. And at one point during this investigation, before this got published, the people that were spoken to retracted their statement. The allegation and the settlement agreement seems to indicate, the leaked settlement agreement, by the way, seems to indicate that the people were paid to retract their statements. So Insider went ahead with the article anyway. I feel like this is going to end up being a deep, hot mess at some point of litigation, but Insider talked about all of the different allegations. The article's linked down below, that there was violence, that there was non-reciprocated sex, and that the victim in this case, this is from 2008, at the time was 17 years old. So we're now dealing with non-consensual engagement with a minor. So that's what we're dealing with. The article goes through the different types of allegations and then it gets into very much that these statements were retracted. So several people initially corroborated the statements. Those statements were retracted for payment. And that is where we kind of left it. The statements were retracted for payment. They have, older photos indicating that the two of them were together during this period of time. So they've used other things to corroborate these statements. So there are lots of things that corroborated them, and then more of the history. This is an extensive, when you talk about investigative reporting, this is an extensive piece going into tying together timelines, tying together multiple sources. And then before this hit print, the sources started retracting. People say Star offered witnesses money to recant their allegations against him. I think that meant, retract their allegations against him, and 3 changed their stories. So now we're getting into conversations between the reporter for Insider and some of this sources here saying, I'm retracting my statement. And I believe people here were retracting their statement so that it is less likely that this would get to print. They printed it anyway, even though the statements were retracted. So, this is the retraction text message. I'm not sure I remember things correctly. I may have misinterpreted things. I decided to retract my communications to Business Insider and told them they didn't have authority to publish anything I discussed with them. To resolve all of this, Jeffree Star has agreed to pay me, or to pay you $10,000 if you choose to do the same. So this is people who made statements texting one another about it. So there are allegations of payoff. It goes into, hey, I'm retracting my statement. If you retract your statement, you can get paid too. And that's where this story really left it with, okay, well, these statements were made. I had corroboration and then they were retracted. And now I have evidence that the retracted statements were retracted due to payment. There is a second Insider article. Let's just pull that up. We're going to do it in a separate tab. Yes, I know you're all asking. All of these Insider articles talk about Jeffree Star with 1 R. That is, we're tracking it across the interwebs now, how we spell Jeffree Star. Liam McAvoy made a video titled Hidden Allegations Against Jeffree Star. Well, it's simply a YouTube video. It was before the Insider article and had very similar circumstances and allegations. Peapot Fairy, I don't doubt that. I think that the individuals that spoke probably spoke to other people as well before this NDA was signed. So, oof. So this story from 19 hours ago comes out with the receipts on all of this. And the receipts were broken by Sticky. I want to get it right. Hold on. Sticky Drama on Twitter. And on Twitter, Sticky Drama put up the alleged check, the NDA, and other information about it, and then did a video today. Yes, Makeup Raccoon, I've seen it. So that's where we're at today, is now there are receipts. And the second article from Insider talks about the leaked documents. So now there are newly leaked documents. And and now that there's newly leaked documents, we need to go through the newly leaked documents and talk about it. I'm just going to keep saying oof, because this is the darker side of celebrity, that if these allegations are true, this is tough. And though Def Noodles has them up, these originally did come from Sticky Drama. So the source information came from them, and now everyone has run with it. So let's just pull up stickydrama.com. I think it's, God, I get so insecure about spelling things in person. It's Sticky Drama. Yes. Okay. I wanted to answer this question. They retracted statements. How come BI was still able to print and publish? Also, oh, love you too. Thank you. How were they able to? They chose to roll the dice on that because they had other corroborating statements and they went for it. And they thought, I think Business Insider believed that they had enough information that the statements were retracted because they were paid, that they went for it. And they made it very clear that those statements were retracted. So can Jeffree Star be arrested? Not without a police report. The victim would have to go to the police and talk about it. However, I will talk about what would happen if that happened in a case like this. I'm not going to speculate on whether Jeffree Star will get arrested or not. This is from 2008. We are in 2020, so the actions are old. I have not looked into the updates to the statute of limitations with regard to minors, but I will talk about what can happen. So this is the receipts that were put up on Sticky Drama. This is why they have come up onto Twitter. It is the allegation that there is a $45,000 check that was paid to the victim in this case, that it was remitted by someone who's alleged to work for Star Cosmetics. People have Googled him and said, yes, this seems to be the CFO of Jeffree Star Cosmetics. And then in addition to putting up this check, they put up parts of the settlement agreement, and then in a YouTube video put up all of the settlement agreement. And because there's a legal document here, that's absolutely what I want to talk about with y'all today, because now there's this NDA. So there's the two Insider articles. That's the old one. This is the new one that kind of summarizes where we're at. Newly leaked documents appear to show Jeffree Star's team attempting to derail Insider's October investigation into allegations of sexual assault and violence made against Star. StickyDrama.com, a blog devoted to online gossip, published an image of a cashier's check that appears to show, notice the language being used. Y'all, we've talked a lot about defamation. So just listen to the language being used here to know why people are making it very clear that they're allegations, because all we've talked about on this channel lately is defamation. So the image of a cashier's check that appears to show a $45,000 payment to Star's sexual assault accuser, Gage Arthur, from a Jeffree Star Cosmetics executive days after Arthur retracted his allegations to Insider. Thank you, Feisty, 50, and Fabulous. The same website published what it says is a section from Arthur's settlement agreement with Star's team. dictating that he would be paid $25,000 for attempting to retract his allegations, in addition to $20,000 that would be paid for contacting two of the other sources and getting them to do the same. And that's why that first insider article came up, because the first article shows the text messages saying, hey, I'm retracting, you can retract too. Previously, Star's attorney denied these allegations of physical and sexual violence, and that inside investigators' claim was false and defamatory. Okay. So you can see the language here is very careful. And it is very careful. This, from what I've seen and from everything I've looked up, there's never been a police report in this case. This has not been reported to police. I will say that for me, doesn't cut to whether this did or did not happen at all. So the fact that there's no police report does not say to me, oh, this must have happened, or oh, this must not have happened. Particularly in cases of unwanted sexual conduct, especially for a minor, and particularly from reports that said that the victim at the time was homeless, was staying with Jeffree Star, and there was a power disparity here. Going to the police can be terrifying. I have also found that there are reasons that victims of same-sex sexual assault choose not to go to the police, because it adds another level of, I don't want to be judged on this. I also think victims of sexual assault can often be dragged through the news in a way that most people don't want to subject themselves to. Sexual assault cases can be difficult when it's a, they said type of a case. So there are a lot of choices of why somebody wouldn't go to the police in a case. And this is allegations coming from an incident in 2008. That doesn't make this, and it's time to have another conversation of legal and moral are two different things. Nothing makes recovering from COVID more entertaining than YouTube Makeup Land. We need to hook up some, yes, offline and discuss these cases. Absolutely. 50, thank you so much. And feel better recovering from COVID. Oh, it's a tough one, but I didn't think Tsunami would rope all of this in. And though this isn't a lawsuit, there are legal documents. So because there are legal documents, we're roping it into Tsunami. This is now officially part of Tsunami. There's an NDA that's been leaked on Twitter. So legal and moral. There are two different things on this, and we are going to have the conversation about the moral reprehensibility of paying people to shut the fuck up about stuff that's happened to them, and then the legal permission to do the same. You can legally pay someone to not talk about shit. That is not illegal. But it doesn't make it less gross. So that's where we are. We are in the legalities here, moralities here. We're going to talk about the legality. The morality of this, y'all get to determine for yourself. If it feels gross to you, it's gross. So, yes, there is a very real conversation happening in the chat that victims don't go to the police because they're ashamed. And a lot of times victims don't feel that their stories will be treated with sensitivity. And unfortunately, that can happen. So, this is all California based, and the age of consent in California is 18. The age of consent in some of this stuff can go to the punishment, but it can't go to consent. You can't consent under the age of 18. Consent's consent. In 2008, y'all, I don't think California had gone to affirmative consent yet, but I would have to verify that. California now is an affirmative consent state, which means nothing means no. Means no. Anything less than, yes, please put that there, do that thing, lick me like this. Anything short of that is not consent. California is a affirmative consent state. That law had changed, and I don't know if it changed before and after 2008. And that's something I will look up as we talk, because this is a first look. We will talk about this again. It is a first look. I don't know how I ended up putting Nightbot up there. Thanks, Nightbot. So let's get into what it is. The underage consent, again, you still have to have a police report before it can be criminally prosecuted. In the criminal law system, there are cases that are settled out of court civilly. It is not illegal to do so. It is illegal to threaten victims. It is not illegal to civilly settle cases. This was settled before it ever went to the police. What you cannot do is say, if I pay you, you can never report this. But that is a newer provision of the law. So if the victim wanted to, assuming that the statute of limitations on this hadn't passed because they were a minor, because if they weren't a minor, the statute of limitations would have passed on this. But because they are a minor, if the statute of limitations has not passed, you can't decide, you can't say, excuse me, that, oh, well, I'll pay you if you don't go to the police. But you can say, I'll pay you if you don't talk to Business Insider. But the I'll pay you if you don't go to the police is also a newer provision to these things. A minor cannot send an NDA, Tanya, but this NDA was signed in 2020. So this is new. Who gets to dictate the differences between ethics and morality? I believe that is an individual determination because the law is the law and the law has its own bounds of ethics, but morality is a personal decision, in my opinion. So, is it normal for influencers to use NDAs? Yes, it is. And it's normal for politicians to use NDAs in this way. It's normal for people who have the money and the behavior pattern to do so in this way. So, I believe I answered that. A minor cannot sign an NDA, but this individual signed it this year. Okay, let's jump into what is leaked and what is said, and then answer all of the questions about it. So let's pull up. Again, I pulled up the original source, again, is Sticky Drama. And then this is on Def Noodles screenshotted this. I screenshotted it. There is a video here from Sticky Drama. There are things I watched this video. There are some statements of law that I don't necessarily agree with, and we'll talk about why. And we're going to pull up this NDA. Okay, for me, it's tough that the signature page is not annotated or connected. So could this signature page belong to a different document? Perhaps. Will we know that? I don't know. But this was signed 25th September 2020, and the Insider article came out, the original one, in October of 2020. So here's where I give weight to this is we have multiple sources connecting the dots. We have the Insider article saying there were text messages back and forth and that people retracted their statements and that came out October 1st, 2020. So that was happening behind the scenes around the same time frame that this would have been going on. So those things make sense to me. But this signature page is not connected to these other pages in the way they're screenshotted. That doesn't mean, normally I would say in the things I write, remainder of page intentionally left blank, signature page to follow. That doesn't mean everyone does it that way. So we're going to go through these screenshots. They're a little bit hard to read and talk about what's in this NDA. The statement in the video was that this was a Gibson Dunn document. I will just point out the lawyers' names aren't on here, so I cannot verify that. I will just point out Gibson Dunn is also a law firm we've talked about here. Let's see if anybody remembers. Why have we talked about Gibson Dunn? Does anybody know why we've talked about Gibson Dunn? I'm going to wait for the chat. I'm going to wait for the chat. Let's talk about it. Let's see if anybody remembers where Gibson Dunn has come up on this channel before. Should the NDA be notarized? Not necessarily. It's not uncommon for it not to be, especially if there's money. K Fitz, ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Gibson Dunn is the attorney that is representing Tati in the business partner lawsuit, not the defamation lawsuit. Saltsy is not with Gibson Dunn. Salty is on the defamation suit. Gibson Dunn is the firm representing Tati on the business partner lawsuit. Y'all have a fantastic memory. I appreciate you guys. 10 points for the law nerds. Everybody gets a gold star. Pop quiz. Who knows Gibson Dunn? Gibson Dunn is a very large and well-respected law firm that does do entertainment stuff like this. So these screenshots that are on Def Noodle's Twitter come from this video where the proprietor of Sticky Drama shows them in this video. So, no, we don't want volume. No, loud. Jesus, loud. He shows them. I just wanted to show you that he shows them. Oh, we don't have the whole thing. Okay, he shows these in his video. It'll be linked below. Go watch his video for the full tea. I don't ever want to take views from anybody when they've done the thing. Also, this check, he puts it out there and says, call Bank of America and verify the account's real. That's out there. If you want to go find it, it's on Def Noodles. And then Christopher Stone is the one who put the video up. So thank you for everyone who brought this to my attention. Let's get into this NDA. Confidential settlement agreement. These are not uncommon in things like this where somebody is being paid to not say shit. So you're being paid to not say shit about the shit. Oof. The confidential settlement agreement dated September 25th, 2020 is made and entered to by Andrew Arthur and Jeffree Star, collectively the parties, whereas this is a recitation of facts. So this is saying why we're getting into it. I will say before and after, a settlement is not an admission of guilt. A settlement is a settlement. A settlement means you are making these very big allegations, and rather than going through court with you, I would rather give you some money so that you shut the fuck up so that I don't have to deal with it. But it is not on its face an admission of guilt. These are allegations. It doesn't make it feel less yucky. You guys get to decide how much weight you give this. You guys get to decide how much credence you give this. Things in this doesn't mean it's true, but also that doesn't mean that it's not true. These are still allegations. Let's jump back into it. Whereas Mr. Arthur and others provided certain statements to Business Insider in connection with a planned story about Mr. Star. In connection with statements made by Mr. Arthur and others, Business Insider has accused Mr. Star of sexual misconduct, tasering individuals, drugging individuals, throwing a knife at an individual, and sending crude photos. Whereas Mr. Star denies all of the allegations made against him. However, the mere publication of such salacious, serious, spurious, it's one of those allegations, no matter how false, could have a very negative effect on someone with Mr. Star's large public following, company, and employees. So that's going to why they want this to be quiet. That it really states their position of this very clearly. Whereas, and this is blurry from the Twitter because it's a screenshot from a YouTube video. Whereas after talking to, side note, if you want to make it difficult for somebody with ADD and dyslexia to read legal documents, have them be screenshots on Twitter from a video and kind of blurry. But we're going to get through it because I want to talk about it and because it's important. Why is the NDA from 2020? Because the story was breaking in 2020, and it appears that this individual who alleges these things did not speak about this until now. That's why this is coming up now. There was no police report then. There was no conversation about it then. That's why this is all coming up now. This NDA and payment is centered around the fact that this Business Insider story was happening. The language of the insider story breaks down that they had reached out to Mr. Star for response. So Star knew it was coming. So, whereas after talking to more friends and thinking back over the events that occurred more than 10 years ago, Mr. Arthur recognizes that he was not remembering things correctly and may have misinterpreted things, and that his statements to Business Insider and those made by others within his circle were not reliable or correct. No, are not reliable or correct. and therefore has agreed to retract his communications to Business Insider and no longer serve as a source for any story about Mr. Star. Whereas, in an effort to resolve this dispute, the parties agreed to a confidential term sheet, which is attached, dated September 23rd, 2020, which sets out the terms of the settlement enumerated below. Whereas on September 23rd, 2020, Mr. Arthur emailed the writer at Business Insider retracting his communications, explaining that he misremembered and misinterpreted things, and informing the writer that Business Insider does not have authority to publish anything he discussed with her. Immediately after sending the above email, Mr. Arthur sent a text message to her stating, "Please confirm that you received my email." Whereas, without admitting any facts or liability, the parties desire to fully and finally resolve this dispute amicably with the conditions set forth. Whereas the parties expressly agree that the term sheet previously exchanged between them, this agreement, and the terms of their settlement shall forever remain confidential and shall not be disclosed to any person or entity that is not a party to this agreement for any reason except as required by law or per court order. So this language is going to come up, required by law or court order. Now, therefore, in consideration of the mutual agreement and covenants contained herein, the parties hereby agree as follows. Communications to Business Insider. Mr. Arthur shall not engage in any further written or telephonic communications with the author or anyone else at Business Insider. And Business Insider speculated that this is what happened, unless first discussed and agreed with Mr. Star or his representatives. Settlement payment. And this is also clipped out in a section that was put on Twitter yesterday. Within 2 business days of signing this agreement, Mr. Arthur shall be paid $25,000. If Business Insider does not publish the article about Mr. Star within 3 months of the effective date, Mr. Arthur shall receive an additional $25,000. That other parties have also retracted their statements to Business Insider. Mr. Arthur shall receive an additional $10,000 for contacting each of the other 2 individuals for a total additional sum of $20,000. So it seems like this $45,000 payment is for retracting the statement and for contacting the other parties, but not for the other amount of 25, because we know that the article was published. If cooperation, if Business Insider or others continue to make efforts to investigate the claims relating to Mr. Arthur's allegations against Star, Arthur agrees to cooperate with Star in responding to those inquiries in a manner to be discussed and agreed by the parties. So this is just saying, if this keeps coming up, we and you will work together to come up with a statement to squash it, is really how that reads. We're going to cooperate together in how to respond to these things. If Business Insider nonetheless publishes a story about Mr. Star, Mr. Arthur will issue a public statement in a manner to be discussed and agreed between the parties, expressing that Business Insider did not have authority to make or publish any statements attributed to him, and that he does not agree with them or believe them to be true, and will otherwise cooperate with Mr. Star in responding to the published allegations. Further, because Mr. Arthur believes that all postings about Mr. Star on stickydrama.com that reference Mr. Arthur are false and untrue, Mr. Arthur further agrees to make reasonable efforts to encourage Christopher Stone, the proprietor, to remove such postings from Sticky Drama. You guys, I didn't know Sticky Drama was in here. Like, I'm literally first look reading this with y'all. So there must have been other stories on Sticky Drama knowing that this was coming and saying, hey, here it goes. Okay, confidentiality and non-disclosure. The parties agreed that the discussions and negotiations surrounding the term sheet, that's this bit above, the settlement payments, and this agreement are in furtherance of settlement discussions. Accordingly, all communications relating to the term sheet, this agreement, and the settlement, and any and all drafts of the term sheet and the agreement are entitled to the protections of Rule 408 of the Federal Rules of Evidence and state law requirements. That means that this cannot be used to prove something is true because these are in conversation of settlement. So these can't be used to prove that the thing that happened is true. The only thing this can be used for is if this is violated, that the violation of this can come into court. So that's a very rough breakdown of what that means. This goes on to have a breakdown of the NDA, what is NDA'd, which is all the conversations about this is NDA. This is very typical NDA language and very standard NDA language. Future statements, Mr. Arthur shall not repeat any of the allegations made to Business Insider, or any other publications at any time in the future. So this is a full barred, like, we are done with this. Mr. Arthur also shall not cooperate with Business Insider or any other publications on any story about Mr. Star at any time in the future. If Mr. Arthur does so, he will be liable to Mr. Star for the sum of $50,000 per publication. So if he talks, it would be for each publication you talk to is the way that this reads. The release and waiver is a full release and waiver of rights under Section 1542. So the general release does not extend to claims that the creditor or releasing party, that is very specific creditor language that goes to you are being released from liability and we are being released as well. The parties hereby waive and relinquish every right or benefit they may have under Section 1542 to the full extent that they may lawfully waive such a right. So to the full extent that they may lawfully waive such a right will come up, and benefit with regard to disputes between them. And then there is, I believe, a dispute resolution. The parties' obligations and all claims relating to the relationship between the parties, including all claims in torts, contract, at law, or in equity, will be governed by the laws of the state of California without regards to conflicts of law principles. In the event of any dispute concerning the validity, interpretation, enforcement, or breach of this agreement, or otherwise arising out of this agreement, the dispute shall be resolved by a confidential arbitration in Los Angeles in accordance with the Federal Arbitration Act and the existing rules of JAMS, which is standard. The parties intend this arbitration provision to be valid, enforceable, irrevocable, and construed to as broadly as possible. The prevailing party shall be entitled to recover reasonable fees for the cost of any arbitration. That means that if this agreement's violated, which the publication of the agreement might be enough to say that this was violated, it's not a lawsuit. It is a arbitration. So saying there's an issue under this agreement and we've both signed this agreement, assuming this agreement is true, accurate, and signed by both parties, then this will go to arbitration. This will not go into court. It will not go through court. That's not uncommon in an NDA like this, because what you don't want is a jury being like, what in the fuck, man? Why are you paying someone for this? Because if y'all in the chat are feeling that way, imagine sitting on a jury about it. That's why things like this would go to arbitration, because the arbitrator would be like, regardless of what the contract is about, if it's a legal contract that can be enforced and it's been breached, the subject matter of the contract is not what I'm interested in here. What I'm interested in here is whether this agreement was a valid agreement and whether it was breached, and then what the fuck happens next. A jury would be like, wait, what? We want to talk about the things. So it would be hard to get a jury to focus on whether this contract was breached, in my opinion, that when you have things like this, arbitration is going to benefit the party asking for this to be signed. Arbitration, in this case, greatly benefits Star because of exactly why you all are sitting here going, Emily, what the fuck? Right. That's why you don't put this in front of a jury if you're the party writing this agreement. Arbitration just gets to the heart of the thing with a neutral arbitrator. Okay. Now that we've covered that, the headings are just the headings. Counterparts, it can be executed in multiple parts. No presumption against drafting party. Each party acknowledges and agrees that any rule of law or legal decision that would require interpretation of any claimed ambiguities in this agreement against the drafting party has no application and is expressly waived. So if it goes against us, we waive it. No admissions of liability. authority. Each party represents and warrants that it had full power and authority to enter into this. We've entered into this agreement freely is essentially what this provision says, that they've read it, that they understand it and are bound by it. I have to wonder if the other party had an attorney to read this with them. However, when I've seen circumstances like this, in the criminal side, you see victims just wanting it to be over. And so if victims just want it to be over, even taking it to an attorney might be like, I don't give a fuck. I just want it to be over. Like, I just want it to be over. And so this is going to be very interesting. I don't think this will go to court, truth. I think this will go to arbitration for the violation, depending on how this all went down. Like, depending on how this got out, I think if anything relating to this goes to court, we will see another defamation case of this shouldn't have been released. These are defamatory statements. These statements aren't true. This agreement says that the statements aren't true. So if anything goes to court, I could see a defamation case going forward to the reporting of this. But with regard to this agreement and the apparent breach of this agreement, and I say apparent because it's out there and it's not supposed to be out there, that apparent breach would go to arbitration. So anything dealing with this would go to arbitration, and we will not know the results of that, because the results of that will generally then be also private. That is to say, if this is a valid contract, if this contract is invalidated, then it can go to court. If I was Star's team, we just want to put up the easy one. If I was Star's team, I don't want this in court. If I'm Gage's team, I want this in court. So now there's a push-pull over, do we want this in court? What happens if you don't consent to sign an NDA? If you don't consent to sign an NDA in a circumstance like this, then there's no payment and you can be sued for defamation. I imagine that was the conversation behind the scenes of these statements are defamatory. We'll believe they're defamatory. There may also be, not in this case, but in cases like this, when you have great power disparities, which is a great question. LCAT, thank you for asking this. When there are power disparities, not in this case, but in any case, where one party has more money, one party has more visibility, more lawyers, it's like, okay, well, we think that your statements are defamatory and they're not true. So if you would like us to bury your ass in a mountain of litigation, we can do that. Or we can pay you, you can stop saying the shit we think is defamatory, and we can all just go about our day. Whew. So if you don't consent to sign an NDA in a case like this, you don't get paid, you don't sign the NDA, you make the statements and roll the dice that you're going to get sued, and then deal with it and say, no, it's true. And I stand in my statements because it's true. But then you go through a very public process of proving that allegations from 2008 are true in 2020. And that becomes they said, unless there are other things that are evidence. Most people who have been victims of this type of assault and of abuse do not want to keep reliving this. And I can only imagine that that might be the case here as well. Doesn't the source matter in these cases? Where did Sticky Drama get this from? We don't know. Isn't it important to assess the reliability of these documents? Absolutely. It's absolutely important, which is why I pointed out the fact that the signature page does not seem to be attached to this is problematic for me. The dates, and the reason I talked about it is because the dates and the insider story match what's being said here. The insider story says they were paid. The insider story from October also says there's these text messages and we have screenshots of these text messages. Could that all be fake? Could. Text messages can be faked. Would Business Insider roll the dice on taunting Jeffree Star to sue them if those text messages weren't able to be proven? I don't know. So this is a text between Gage Arthur and another source saying, the events I discussed with Business Insider were from many years ago. I'm not sure I'm remembering things correctly, and I may have misinterpreted things. I've decided to retract my communications to Business Insider and told them they don't have authority to publish anything I discussed with them. To resolve all of this, Jeffree Star has agreed to pay you $10,000 if you choose to do the same. Then we have this document that says, whereas after talking to more friends and thinking back over the events that occurred more than 10 years ago, Mr. Arthur recognizes that he was not remembering things correctly, may have misinterpreted things, and that his statement to Business Insider and those made by others within his circle are not reliable or correct, and therefore he has agreed to retract his communications to Business Insider and no longer serve as a source for a story about Mr. Star. So yes, it is absolutely important to talk about whether these things match up. But now there are a number of things that have similar language in them, which is why it's worth talking about. Are we litigating this? No. Am I telling you whether I think Jeffree Star did this? No. Am I saying there is some alignment between what we've seen in that Business Insider story, the text messages that they've revealed, and the things said in this purported document? Yes, there are some things in there that are similar. Do I believe that this type of thing happens? Absolutely, this happens. Absolutely, this happens. This happens in workplace inappropriate cases. This happens in okay, well, if you're alleging that this happened and you agree to leave, we'll pay you, sign an NDA, and you go on your way. Does this happen? Absolutely. Absolutely, this happens. But the signature page is not connected. So there's that. But there's also this check that is reported to have been verified, and you guys can go check Christopher Stone's video and see what you think and make up your mind. Why I wanted to talk about it particularly is, one, we have an NDA that we're going to talk about. These things generally shouldn't be floating around in the public. That's literally the point of them, is that they are never floating around in the public, and the contents of them is not known, which is very interesting to me. And because there are some newer provisions in California law that Sticky Drama's Christopher Stone brought up, and that provision is California Civil Code section 1670.11. So this civil code provision, we're going to talk about real quick, talks about unlawful contracts and states, notwithstanding any other law, a provision in a contract or settlement agreement entered into on or after January 1st, 2019, that waives a party's right to testify in an administrative, legislative, or judicial proceeding concerning alleged criminal conduct or alleged sexual harassment on the part of the other party. In this case, it would be the other party, Star, to the contract or settlement agreement, or on the part of the agents or employees of the other party when the party has been required or requested to attend the proceedings pursuant to a court order, subpoena, or written request from an administrative agency or the legislator, is void and unenforceable. What this basically says is that if there is a settlement agreement in a case of sexual misconduct, alleged criminal conduct, this was really spurred out of the Me Too workplace sexual harassment movement. We need water. Y'all, it's dry in the winter. So if a contract or settlement agreement is signed, and that's essentially what this NDA is. This NDA is a settlement agreement because there's a sum of money agreeing that you're going to not say shit. Then, if it precludes you from testifying, responding to a court order, subpoena, administrative agency, then it's void and unenforceable. The statement that was made in the video from Sticky Drama was that this provision renders the NDA, presumed to be true by them, unenforceable. And I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. Lawyer Emily looks at both sides. Let's talk about, could hush payments in California be considered to be bribery in some or all contexts? Not when they are mutually agreed upon. Also, bribery in California is very specifically to public officials. Just like the common language of the thing and what the thing actually is are different, but bribery generally goes specifically to public officials, not to private parties. So here's why I think that this code section 1670.11 does not apply to the language in this, because this says that the agreement itself would have to forestall you from being able to attend a proceeding pursuant to a court order, subpoena, and others. This provision has a line in it that I also put in any NDAs I write. Mine are all in business contexts. This is well outside of the stuff that I do. I do this in a business context, but this has language in it. And because this is a photo, it's A, not going to search, and B, not going to come up. But I pointed it out twice. There are two statements of law here. The first one is at the end of this whereas the parties expressly agree that the term sheet previously exchanged between them, this agreement and the terms of their settlement shall forever remain confidential and shall not be disclosed to any person or entity that is not a party to this agreement for any reason except as required by law or per court order. But except as required by law or per court order means that this agreement allows for the signer, in this context, Gage Arthur, to abide by a court order, a subpoena, or otherwise as required by law. So this section doesn't, in my opinion, invalidate it, because the section only requires that the contract cannot forestall someone from attending a proceeding pursuant to a court order or subpoena. This specifically says except as required by law or per court order, and it says it twice in this. And because it says it twice in this, I don't think that this is going to be invalidated, because it very clearly makes that exception for per court order, as all NDAs should, because you can't NDA someone from complying with the law, essentially. Here. This is on the second screenshot. Let me back up to the beginning of the sentence. Is this whole thing a sentence? God damn it. That's a lot of commas. Okay. We're just going to have to read the whole thing. That whole paragraph's a sentence. Okay, perfect. The parties agree that this agreement, its terms and conditions, and all communications related thereto, including the reasons for the parties entering into the term sheet and this agreement, shall be maintained in strict confidence, and that they and their counsel, representatives, agents, or anyone acting directly or indirectly on their behalf shall not disclose, discuss, or communicate in any manner whatsoever the confidential information to any person or entity that is not a party to this agreement for any reason except as required by court order or process of law. So that is in there twice. Because that is in there twice, this section is satisfied, in my opinion. It clearly allows for process of law and required by court order. So, for me, I expect that we will see some legal shit to fall out from this. I don't know how this was obtained. We don't know the veracity of it. We know what it purports to be, and we know that there is a check. We know that there have been statements that the check has been verified in some way, and there are a lot of coincidences here. That still doesn't mean that this has been verified. I know that the internet has been looking at these two signatures to be like, but isn't that Jeffree Star's signature? Isn't this Andrew Arthur's signature? These aren't necessarily attached to this because it doesn't say signature page to follow. That said, in documents that are signed in counterpart, there is often a signature page separate. I generally prefer to put what the signature page is relating to, so that signature page is like signature page for this agreement dated this day, and make it very clear what the thing goes to. That's my practice, but it doesn't mean it is their practice. It just makes it easier to say this signature page can't be taken out of context. So, question, what happens to NDA's validity once it's leaked like this? Well, the NDA stays valid, and the person who leaked the NDA will end up likely in arbitration over this. And then it's going to have to sort out of how this got out. But this has an arbitration provision, so that will not go through a court process that we will see. But that's what will happen. There are phone calls. There are lots of phone calls with lawyers happening today. There are fleets of lawyers on the phones, and there, I would imagine, is a lot of yelling. There's going to be yelling, lots and lots of yelling. So let's see what else. So if the victim filed charges against Jeffree, then is he going against the NDA? Not specifically. I don't know if that can happen in this case based on statute of limitations. Also, in a case like this, with these allegations, the presumption in this case would now be probation. There are new regulations through the district attorney's office of California. Not of California. Tired. There are new office policies that were shared yesterday from the new district attorney in Los Angeles County. If a case like this, we're going fact pattern, different people. If a case like this happened contemporaneously when a victim at the time that it happened went to the police, there would be no bail on this. There would be an investigation, and it would be presumed to be probation. So the individual with the taser and the sexual assault would likely get probation in a case like this, because you are not allowed any longer to use the allegations that a weapon was used. You are not allowed to allege the allegations that drugs were involved. So this would not be greatly consequential right now in the county of Los Angeles. This is a Starbucks flask. I love all the Hallow things. But let me just look real quick and see. I know where it is. Let me just. There were changes to the statutes of limitations, but he was a minor at the time. And there are some quirks to that. Because he was 17. Let me see. I would need to look this up. If you guys want me to, I can look this up more. But the fact that he's 17 is a quirk to this as to how long the statute of limitations goes for. So for children, and I don't know if under the new statute of limitations provision, 17 counts as a child, or if it's under 13 or 14. So I would need to look it up. The prosecutors are having a day today, so I'm not going to talk to the people. It says he wasn't 17 at the time of the assault. He was 19. If he was 19, it definitely changes the statute of limitations. The allegations in the article stated he was 17. If he was an adult, then it changes the statute of limitations. So it just depends on the age. So yes, some of the statutes had been expanded, but even if it had been expanded to 10 years, we're still beyond 10 years in this case because the actions were alleged to have happened in 2018. I was asked to sign an NDA after a counsel here breached GDPR and wanted to pay me off to bury my statement. I took him to court and won. And Jayne, that is always an option. It's always an option to say, no, I have a right to go forward with this. I also don't judge anyone who says, I would rather just take the money and be done. Like, there's no judgment there from me. That's true. A 17-year-old can't sign an NDA, but there is no indication to me that this individual is under the age of 18 today. It seems that he is older today. You guys, this is... I wonder if we will see cease and desists over this information be shared. I don't know, but we may. is it legal to, somebody was asking, is it legal to crowdfund legal fees? Some of the platforms have provisions against it. So some like GoFundMe and stuff, some of them have provisions against it, but I don't know, like, is it against the terms of GoFundMe? I believe that it is sourcing legal fees. Like you can do medical and stuff, but I don't think legal. But I don't know if that's true across the board. I don't think there is a legal prohibition against other people contributing, but there are some quirks as to if they pay your lawyers directly and who's the client then, depending on how the lawyers are paid. So it becomes like it depends on the circumstance. Was it the victim or witness that signed the NDA? I'm confused. Agent, it looks like the victim who made the statements that signed the NDA. So I am going to continue to look and answer your questions. I feel like legal questions are as frustrating as a lot of coding questions where the answer to seemingly simple questions always starts with "it depends." Scott, it's very true. Legal questions turn very heavily on fact scenarios. And when there's a law, you get a law and then you get a whole bunch of case law with a court going, in this fact scenario goes this way, but in this fact scenario goes this way, which makes it very frustrating to give clear answers without a full deep dive into what the law is, which is why here it's like, generally it's this, but facts can change. Generally it's this. So and you guys, as I said, I think that some of the platforms shut down crowdfunding on legal fees, but if they're not paying to the lawyer directly, if they're paying to the person, I think that that's not a problem unless it's a problem on a crowdsourcing website themselves. B Heaven, thank you so much. These are prescription and Erlin lenses, and they are like 4-year-old Tiffany frames. I love them. The arms are getting floppy, and I need a new pair because I think that the screws have like unscrewed, but I do. So, can NDAs keep people from pressing charges even within the statute of limitations? Again, it really depends on the state. Some states have prohibitions against that. What we just read, the California one says, look, you can't interfere with legal. Does that mean that the person would sign an NDA and choose to go to the police? I don't know. But in California, you can't NDA around interference with legal process. And at the end of the day, the laws in California are such that, and in most places, when it comes to prosecution, though there's a victim witness statements, the prosecutor's office determines what's going to be prosecuted and not. The victim can choose to cooperate or not. And that's how things move forward. But there also, in cases like this, have to be enough evidence to go forward. In a sexual assault case, evidence you would want to see is something more than just two parties making a statement. There would need to be some additional thing. Other people that witnessed it, other people, physical evidence, things like that. You would look for more than just two parties saying a thing happened. And because this is olden time, that makes it more difficult. So, okay, there we go. GoFundMe allows crowdfunding for legal fees as of July 2020. I know there had been some flap about that. I have not followed it super closely because generally it doesn't apply here, but there we go. Thank you for the answer. Hi there. Are NDAs still applicable when in SA cases? Sorry if this was asked. Yes, they are still applicable in SA cases if they are done correctly and allow somebody to comply with law enforcement. So I love that you guys are seeing the purple gavels. Everyone who's been a channel member for a month has come up into the lighter purple, the purpley rainer purple color of purple. And then next month we'll get a different color. I love that they change color the longer that you've been a channel member, but we just hit 10,000 subs last month. So we just got channel membership turned on and I appreciate that. So I love the purple gavels. I saw the indication that I could get a screwdriver. Hi, husband. And I keep getting a screwdriver on the glasses, but the screw's not holding. Like, I think it's stripped on the inside of the, like, I think it's stripped. So, yep. Yep. I love the questions, but yes, it was a very deep breath, honey. It's a lot. The amount of different legal topics we have covered in the last 2 weeks makes my head spin. What is the legal answer is exactly the same as what happens after you die. It depends on what happens. That, yep. That's a perfect summary of it. Sticky drama here. Hi, Christopher Stone. The NDA is void because it doesn't inform Gage he can testify at administrative agency or legislature. Christopher Stone, I appreciate that. I feel that the language in there still allows for it. I do not believe that exact language has to be in there under Section 1670. Again, that's my interpretation of it, because it says very clearly that it doesn't waive their right to testify, because it allows, and I'll just show you the language I'm thinking of. And we appreciate your reporting, and we've shouted you out quite a lot. So we appreciate your reporting on this. The reason I made that statement earlier was because of language in here that says, and of course, with anything, this can go to court to allow a court to decide if it does or if it doesn't. But there is language, except as required by law or per court order here. For any reason except as required by law or per court order, which would allow you to talk, because that would be as required by law. And it states it again on the next page in that very, very long sentence that we all pulled up on this one. So when it says except as required by court order or process of law, I think that language in the NDA covers it. Could other lawyers disagree? Absolutely can. I think that this except as required by court order or process of law will cover it, but that doesn't mean that can't go to court and argue that it's void and unenforceable. I wouldn't want to make that argument, because the language is in there and because it says by process of law. So process of law to me covers administrative agencies, administrative hearings, because that also covers court order. And that's what this provision says very specifically, is that it doesn't waive the party's right to testify in an administrative, legislative, or judicial proceeding concerning alleged criminal conduct or alleged sexual harassment, because the language in here does not prohibit that. The language in here says, except as required by court order or process of law, twice. So that allows for subpoenas and for testimony. So except as required by law or per court order would be that subpoena language. So I think that is enough. Could that still go to court and be argued that this is void because of that? Yes, it can still go to court and be argued that the language has to be the clipped out language of this law. I have not seen that required, but also there is an argument that you can. So Rachel was asking about the text group. It's just a text for us, and then different membership levels are in a different version of the text, so I see them earlier. But the text group allows me to keep you in the loop. It allows me to text out when I'm going live, because there are times when shit goes down. I just go, hey, we're live. And it allows me to keep you guys up to date on that and respond back to you. Well, honey, thank you for saying the clear nail polish is a good option. I need a new arm. So thank you for help. Thank you for chatting with the chat. I appreciate it. I think with the Jeffree Star NDA that there will be legal kerfuffling. That doesn't mean that, again, anything in here is true, correct, or accurate. These are allegations. This is an allegation of a settlement agreement. Does it purport to be true? Yes. Does it have all the things one would expect to see in a settlement agreement? Yes. There is a signature page. We have seen it. The internet has gone to it and looked. This is one of those things where y'all are going to have to go look for yourself. Y'all are going to look for yourself and decide what you think. This is for y'all to decide what you think. It really is up to you. These are allegations There is not a pending lawsuit. If this NDA is violated and this NDA is a true and accurate representation of the NDA that may or may not exists in this case, then this NDA, the breach of the NDA, goes to arbitration. Could there be other litigation with regard this coming out? Yes, but that's very fact specific on how it came out, what came out, and who's responsible for it coming out. So the underlying breach of the NDA, if this was leaked by one of the parties that signed it, well, no, that's not true. If it was leaked by Andrew Arthur, who signed it, it would go to arbitration to deal with. If Jeffree Star leaked it, then, which I don't think that he would, I don't think that there's any repercussion that Arthur can take under this NDA, because all the repercussions were, if it's leaked, you owe me for your statements. But it's not like a two-way NDA where Star can't talk about it based on what I read. So you guys, it's a very, very interesting thing. I imagine Jeffree's lawyers get paid every year and are very busy. We will talk about the Anna Nicole Smith case. I know that Truth Sleuth has pulled the legal documents. I've pulled the legal documents. We were absolutely going to get into it more. And then all of this happened. Question: can Star sue Insider for defamation, and would that allow the alleged victim to testify? Oh, that's a lot of questions. Okay. Initial thoughts. Well, we just walked through this in the Johnny Depp case, right? So in the Johnny Depp case, what we saw was a headline that alleged that he was a wife beater. And then we saw the Sun say it's substantially true because, and then presented all of Amber Heard's testimony. This NDA says that you can testify per court order. So it would go along the same lines as the Johnny Depp versus the Sun case. You can sue the publication and say, hey, you defamed me. And then the publication can say, hey, it's substantially true. That is not the exact language of the standard in California, but it is truth is a defense. It is true. So it's not libelous because it's printed. Slander is spoken. So it's not libelous because it's true. And then they can prove that it's true. And they prove that it's true by bringing in the people that told them it was true. And under this NDA, it states, except as required by court order or process of law, which would be subpoenaed into court to testify. And it says in the other provision, again, except as required by law or per court order. And it would be a court-ordered subpoena to come testify to say, hey, did you say this shit? Is this shit true? Tell us what happened. Which, again, legally speaking, may be a reason why we haven't seen a defamation suit, because it kicks open the door to, oh, but it's true. And then you have a whole trial over whether it's true, and not just whether it's true, but whether it's true to that civil standard, that more likely than not standard, not whether it's true to like a criminal beyond a reasonable doubt standard. So now you end up in exactly the same situation that we see in the Johnny Depp case with, we've played out all of the testimony, but we haven't treated Amber Heard like another party, because Amber Heard's not the party in that case. The Sun was the party in that case. So we don't get all the discovery as to Amber Heard, just to the Sun. And then we get that lower civil standard saying, but oh, it's more likely than not true. So that may be a reason, a tactical reason, why we haven't seen a defamation lawsuit over this. Does that mean we can't see one? Nope. Does that mean it won't happen? Nope. But now there is this. We've talked enough about these types of cases that you guys can see the chess game of, if we do this, then we do this. And that's what it is. And I'm going to AKA Kristen is what we're going with. We need to address that the victim was not a minor. It didn't change what happened. It doesn't, but it does change the statute of limitations. I was going off what was in the Insider article, and if I misstated that, absolutely apologize. The Insider article had indicated, and maybe it indicated he was 17 when they met and not when these things happened, but yes, it does change the statute of limitations. So yes, it does. So if I misstated that, I absolutely apologize. And that's why I say, if this is true, then this, but if this is true, then this. So that is why I say, if this is the case, then this, because I know Insider mentioned his age, but again, that could have been the age when they met and not the age when these things happened in 2009, 2008. So let me see. I'm going to go back to the Insider article because it is entirely possible that I've misread things. And that's why we say, if this, then this. In 2008, he was a 17-year-old in Austin, Texas, dreams of being famous on the internet. Over the course of 4 interviews that took place during the summer, he said Star sexually pursued him soon after meeting him. In 2009, author moved to Los Angeles to join his more internet famous peers. Once he arrived, he struggled with homelessness. In November 2009, a little after 1 year of meeting, Star invited him to the apartment. The two shared a bed, but that is silent as to his age. So if I extrapolated the age down, depending on the date of birth, that could be over or under the age of 18. So again, if he's over the age of consent, it definitely changes the timeline for the statute of limitations. Either way, I think that what we see here is another way that this comes up and victims choose not to talk about things like this. And that really is the conversation. We saw how the Johnny Depp case played out. We'll see how this plays out. It's an interesting thing. But again, these are allegations. We'll see how it plays out. There is a lot of legal strategy that's going to come into place here. Lori Smith, thank you so much. There's a lot of legal strategy that's going to come into place here. And Kat wrote both of the articles. I believe so. And the chat is going so fast because there's almost 4,000 people in here. But when I said these were thorough articles that were well researched and a lot of statements, Kat wrote both of these articles for Insider. And the reason that I was comfortable talking about this today is because there are things that were said in the first Insider article that match the things that are being reported. So we have multiple sources saying this is how it went down. Insider is saying these interviews were given, the statements were made and then retracted. And I pulled up those text messages, language which is very similar to the language in that NDA that was then brought up by Sticky Drama. So when I said this is why I'm comfortable talking about this, it's because we have these two things that parallel. So Elena had a great question. How do you remain impartial in court? Is it hard to remain unbiased? It's, I think, more important to acknowledge where your biases are when you're a prosecutor, because I was an advocate as a prosecutor. So as a prosecutor, I was advocating for my side, but I also had ethical bounds of where the lines were. And so my dedication in court was not to winning. My dedication in court was to finding justice. And sometimes that meant that a case settled. Sometimes that meant that a case got dismissed. Sometimes that meant that a case didn't get filed, even though victims were upset. So the dedication has to not be to winning, but has to be to doing justice. And in a lot of cases, doing justice was winning and people going to prison, but not always. So the dedication there was a very clear, like I very clearly knew my role, and my role was to do justice. Sometimes that was justice not in lines with what the victims would have wanted, because that's not what justice was for the case. You also have bosses and supervisors and people you bounce things off of. You're not all by yourself. So I didn't have to remain unbiased per se. I knew my role and knew where the boundaries of my role were. And when winning becomes more important, that's when boundaries slip. And there was a lot of faith and trust that I put into the jurors that I picked, which is why I very much focused on who I picked as jurors, because I put my faith into them and to the system to do what was right in a case. And sometimes often that meant I won, but sometimes that meant I lost. And when I did lose, I could look at a jury and say, I understand why you chose to go that way. And at the end of the day, that's their job. My job was just to present my case. Here, it's being aware of, telling you guys when we talk about the Erika Girardi case, like, if this is true, it's awful. I don't want this to be true, but this is what's being said. And we're going to see how it plays out. But it's gross. Like, if it's true, it's gross. And just being really upfront with you guys. And when I say in a lot of these things, I don't really, especially when we're talking about the defamation stuff, it's like, who wins in this is not super relevant to us and our discussion of what the law is. It's how these things break down and how this legal wrangling happens that's much more interesting. And now we've got potentially a defamation case here. We'll see, maybe not. We've got the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, and we've got the Toddy Westbrook stuff. And we can look at all of the different aspects of how these things play out to understand that what just happened and what goes on in court are two very different things. I think the reason that everybody's been so interested in the Toddy Westbrook case is because so many of the statements are made on YouTube. It becomes like a choose your own adventure play at home where people are like, I can look at the statements and see what I think about it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can look at the statements for yourself. So it's very, very interesting. Question, American lawyers get to choose the jury. Yes, Jayne, American lawyers do get to choose the jury. And that, I forget that that's something that doesn't happen everywhere. And I can tell you what that looks like. So the lawyers get to question the jury. And then depending on the type of case, there are a certain amount of ways that you can excuse a juror or remove them. They can happen for cause. Like if a juror's like, I don't care. This case is very much like this other thing that happened in my life. There's no way I can be fair. I can't sit here. They can be removed because they're like, I can't be fair. So that can happen. There's questioning and examination by the judge, and that can go. And then there are other ways that you can remove a juror. Sometimes I would remove jurors just because they wouldn't fit with the other jurors. And then there are reasons you're not allowed to remove a juror. So jury selection in itself is a very dynamic thing. So we're going to have to do another like American justice system conversation because we've been on for over 2 hours now, and we will do a deep dive. It's clear that you guys are interested. We'll do a deep dive on kind of the American criminal justice process side. Like this is how it starts. This is what happens next. This is what happens when you get to trial. This is what it's like picking a jury. We can absolutely do that. I left lawyers on my jury sometimes, for sure. I didn't always leave engineers on my jury though. But I sometimes left lawyers on my jury. But sometimes the feedback they give you is really strange and you're like, can you just please be a juror? Not give me feedback on my handwriting. Oh, so yes, we are just wrapping up, and I'm going to wrap up a few more questions and then get on out of here. So it's clear that we want to do a definite conversation about jurors, and there are totally different ways to do jurors. And there are some bigger cases where jurors are interviewed in court. There are jurors where they fill out waivers before they come in. There are jurors that are federal grand jurors, and there are so many different facets to the U.S. legal system. We will. And what's wrong with engineers? Sometimes engineers were uncomfortable, in my experience, with the fact that beyond a reasonable doubt did not mean beyond any possible doubt, because engineers are very much more black and white. And depending on the cases are not always black and white. Diva Views, you know me so well. I'm so excited that you guys are in here. So betting on 6. No, we have to wrap up. And then what I think I'll do is parse this down and upload a separate video on it. Any story cases where the DA have hoped that their clients lost because their case was already jeopardized or no hope? No, not in my experience, because if the client for the DA is not the victim, the DAs represent the people, in my case, the people in the state of California. If you thought, if you thought that you could not prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, ethically, you shouldn't proceed with that case to trial. So if you thought you didn't have a case, you don't proceed with that case. Interests vary. It really depends on the case. So it really, really depends on the case. And all of this does. It goes very, very case specifics. Um, what Sherlock Holmes game? Discovery and deduction. I don't know what Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. I want to play more Among Us. I was asked if there was a reason I couldn't sit for a 3-week murder trial. I told them I had a child that was just removed from the home. I was a therapist. I got immediately dismissed. It was a doozy. Yeah, as personal stuff that's going on in your personal life and your work life can absolutely come up. Do I still practice at all? Yes, Pamela. Oh, I do still practice. Some I do not do litigation. I do a lot of consulting work and I do like business formations and entrepreneurial work. So yes, I do. Emily has me working from home and wanting to go to law school. Gigi, I appreciate that. Law school is a very thorough decision for sure. What are your thoughts on prison reform? Not to be political or anything, but what do you feel that the punishment exceeds the crime, particularly when it comes to nonviolent offenses? I've been pretty clear on this channel that when it comes to addiction level offenses, that it needs to be a different thing than violent crime offenses. The problem with a lot of reform is that it's very difficult to nuance reform, and that's where nuancing laws becomes important. But when it comes to, and I've talked about drug cases, when it comes to possessions and sales and stuff like that, a lot of it is not necessarily stuff that people need to be sitting in jail forever for. It's just not. But I have made lots of comments about my feelings on the war on drugs because there are bigger things to deal with than addiction, and addiction needs to be dealt with in a better way. Have I seen that? Yes, some. California, Los Angeles County, where I worked, has drug courts and things like that. So when you are dealing with drug addictions, people can go into drug court and work with rehab facilities and things like that, that I think are very promising and should be widely available. Then it gets into money stuff. Have you ever had to try a case with an NDA, and how did you handle that? I do not try cases anymore. All of my trials were in criminal. Most of the cases that I've worked on with NDAs, things resolve well before there ever needs to be a lawsuit. How can I be a juror? It's my dream. I want a hotel room, free food, and free drama to watch, and a judge. Oh, Crappy Crafter, that's fantastic. I think first of all, not every jurisdiction sequesters. They definitely don't in LA County. So you don't always get a hotel room or free food. In LA, you have to drive to court. You get your parking paid for, but parking's far away. And then you get courthouse lunch, which after about a week, courthouse lunch is not exciting. We're going to have to do a whole thing. Can you say you're biased to get out of jury duty? Daniela, you get questioned very thoroughly and you are under oath. So truth will out in those things. And I've seen judges go off. Yes. We need to talk about me being a YouTube lawyer. I am not, nor have ever been employed by Google. So therefore, I am not a YouTube lawyer, as I am not employed by YouTube. Question, what do you do to emotionally and mentally decompress from discussing cases like this so it doesn't affect you and your loved ones? Hi there, that is a work in progress. And it is something that my therapist and life coach and I worked on after I left the DA's office. I've gotten much better at it. I've gotten much better at it and about not taking all of it on to heart, but it's also part of why I stopped doing criminal prosecution, because criminal prosecution weighed very, very, very much on my heart. So I also journal. I also meditate. I walk. And I've done a lot of self-work to not take things personally and to not take responsibility for them. People are responsible for themselves. And it's why I love the Law Nerds so much, but when you guys get riled when people say shitty things about me, then I'm like, you guys, it's okay. Like, people saying shitty things about me are about them more than they're about me. And it's easy to say, look, they're having a reaction to something I said, and that's okay. People can react to the things that I say. People aren't going to like me. I am definitely not for everyone, and that's fine, because it's not about me, if that makes sense. It's more about them, but that has taken work to get to, especially when it got to when it got to taking on responsibility for getting justice for victims in cases that struck very close to my heart. And it's something I still work on. I still have some PTSD from some of the cases that I did, amongst other things that have happened in my life. And that's something we'll talk about. We don't have time today, but that's something we'll definitely talk about on another day if you guys want to hear about it. Lisa, I'm interested to see what happens. There are some drugs that concern me more than others, but there are some drugs I see people do more criminal behavior because of than others. I also have large issues with the opioid crisis, and I think it all plays in together, and that attacking one needs to involve talking about the other one. And I don't quite know how to best do that, but I think we need to keep working on things. Way too many social issues have been pushed onto police and the justice system. Book Mouse, there is a lot more responsibility that needs to happen. And when we talk about decriminalizing drugs, it's like, okay, but we still need to talk about other things that lead into addiction, and the fact that we have social media addictions that studies are showing can lead into opioid use because they light up the same parts of the brain. We also have, we don't talk about things like emotional intelligence and coping mechanisms. So we have people that don't have the tools that they need to handle the shit that's hard. And then we get into other things. So yeah. Shelly, there are, and one day I might be able to talk, the emotions. One day I might be able to talk about some of those. Right now, some of those I can't. I will tell you, there are some cases I will never, ever talk about outside of anyone than other district attorneys because some of them are, no one should know. No one should know some of the things that happened. And triggering and traumatizing other people is something I try to stay away from, which is why most of the stories I tell about court are yes, I do talk about some of the more serious cases, but I also talk about some of the stuff that is lighter or funnier or about my own experiences, not about the case experiences, because there are some things that are there are cases I've not talked about with my family and have only talked about with other DAs. So, yeah, but thank you for asking. So yes, there are cases that still bother me. On the opposite side of someone wanting to be a juror, can you spot people who are actively trying to, oh yeah, you can spot them from a mile away. You can tell when people really don't want to be there. With being someone with ADHD, how hard is it to read all of the paperwork and stay focused? That, Carol, is a great question. It is hard. My brain gets tired. It's why I highlight so actively, because it keeps me engaged. I also listen to music when I read. I also like being able to choose what I'm doing. So being able to choose the types of cases I worked on. And when I get into something, especially when I was doing stuff that was more embezzlement related and more financial related, tying together all the pieces was so fun. Like seeing a sentence in, like today, seeing a sentence in the Insider article in that text message that looks very similar to the language in that NDA, and being able to go, these two things are very alike. Those types of connections keep me very engaged. And I enjoy that a lot. Let me see if there's anything else. We will talk about Ringo. Not sure about the harder drugs. I'm thankful. Renee, I think the fact that weed is still illegal places is stupid. It's just, what wrap up are we on? I don't know. I think we're on wrap up 3 or 4. Do I listen to podcasts to relax? Not always. I tend to listen to audiobooks to relax. So, no, it's okay. It's okay. You guys, when I talk about the fact that there are still cases that still hurt my heart, they really do. And so it's something I'm not afraid to share with you. And when we talk about things like the Naya Rivera case, and there are different perspectives on that, but it's still a human, there's still a human element to that case. It still does get hard to talk about things that are emotional, and being empathetic like that in court can also be hard. So being able to say, I'm allowed to be, it's okay to be empathetic. It's okay to show emotion. And it's interesting. It's interesting. Do you also get together with your colleagues and spill tea on the cases when you were, oh, fuck Carlos, every day. We talked because at the end of the day, there aren't a lot of other people you can talk about. And I still talk to my DA friends about their cases and about the things that are going on. There is a definite cone of silence, but also you can't traumatize your other DA friends because they're all traumatized with you. Like you're all in the trauma together. So it's very similar to people who have been in battle together. You absolutely share an experience, and you share what you've seen, and you're just coming from a common ground. We don't all agree politically on laws. We don't all agree on everything, but we've all had a similar experience, and that allows you to talk cases. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think our offices in one of the courthouses looked like dorm rooms, and we would all flop in somebody's office and be like, listen to this shit that happened today. And then in the back, in the hallway, this defense attorney was looking at Joe, and he was like, somebody's going to get punched. And Joe's like, who's going to get punched? And he's like, you big bastard. And you're like, oh my God, people almost went to fisticuffs during trial. Blah. Oh my God, did you see this testimony? Did you see that? Did you see what that defense attorney was wearing today? Because there was one. We're not still at wrap up number 1. We're done. Law is emotional. And there were definitely times when people would be on the stand telling the most horrible things that happened and be crying. And I would be standing there with tears just running down my face. And it's hard not to have somebody going through that experience. But there were times that jurors were doing it too. It can be very emotional and very draining. It is 1:30, you guys. We've streamed for 2.5 hours. I appreciate you guys for being here, law nerds. If you are still on stream and have not liked, subscribed, and done the YouTube things, please do that. We will be talking about this more. I will timestamp this more. We will keep an eye on what's going on. I always appreciate when you guys tag me on Twitter or Instagram on things you want me to see, because it helps me see it, because my DMs are so I'm trying to get to them, but they are very full. If you want to be part of the text crew, you can text me. You are welcome to join us here as a channel member. We do monthly members only live streams. We do members only pre-party chats and stuff. There are other levels with more things, but I didn't sleep a lot, so we're not going to get to them. If you want your law nerd stuff, it's at Law Nerd Merch. We've got some new merch coming, and it's there if you want it. It's for you. I appreciate you guys. I will see you on social later. Tomorrow, the podcast episode about Tom and Erika Girardi will be live at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time here for a premiere where we can all chat together. And if there are questions, we will do a shorter after party. And then I will be streaming live on Friday. Unless something goes crazy on Thursday, I don't plan on streaming, but you can't keep me off the Instagram, so I'll probably be there too. Thank you guys for being here. Bye. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. The podcast is the Get Legit Law and Shit podcast. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.